Okay, prynawn da pawb across an oil. Afternoon, everybody, and welcome back. Well, this afternoon we've got a really packed agenda. We've got a big lineup. But before we start the proceedings, I'm going to introduce you to now is a short DVD presentation, a short film clip from Ronan Starkey. Now, Ronan is from Amar and Cravagan Association, and he's been involved in all levels of the union's democratic structure, including growing membership of the NASUWT. He's a local association vice president and social media manager. We rely on you young folks to help us dinosaurs here with social media. And he's also becoming a member of NASUWT Northern Ireland Health and Safety Executive Committee. And he participates in local and national conferences. And he's still only 28, and he is NASUWT Young Activist of the Year. So this is a short presentation from him.
My name is Ronan. I am 28, and I am a secondary school teacher. I joined the union back in 2015, just shortly after graduation. I was able to drive change in our local area. I was able to work with local educators to try and assist our members who were having issues within their workplace, doing what we say in the tin by putting teachers first. So what has been involved in the NASUWT? Well, I could sum that up in one word: community. And we are very much a community of teachers helping each other, showing compassion, showing empathy, helping our partners and our teachers and our members get through some challenging times. A problem shared is a problem halved. And I have seen firsthand that the NASUWT will always have, and the same here, you will always have someone who is also experiencing the same issues that you are going through, and so you are never on your own.
If it wasn't for the NASUWT, then I may feel slightly more isolated than I do. I mean, it's always wonderful to be able to come together with so many other passionate and professional people.
For the NASUWT, I would probably be struggling as a trainee teacher. But I think with a really strong union like this, it actually gives us hope that we can enact change and we can actually improve the lives of children.
Young teachers, you are the future of the NASUWT. You are the future policy makers. You are the future change makers within our union. So that is why you should get involved with the NASUWT.
Thank you. But that was a brilliant message, actually. Short, direct, and telling us why why you as young teachers should be involved and sharing his experience, and that was great. And I've had the privilege of meeting Ronan a couple of years ago when I was in over in Belfast at a conference. I met him then, and hopefully meet him again this year at National Conference. We've been plugging National Conference. Our conference is at Easter weekend. Our main conference is at Birmingham next Easter. And details of how to be, you can nominate yourself to be a delegate at that conference. And you would have had another email this week from our General Secretary, Dr. Patrick Roach, telling you and encouraging you to do just that. So please, I would say to you, one of the things about today is don't let this be your last time that you join an NASUWT event. And if you want to come to conference in Easter, please do. Anyway, enough from me. I'm going to hand over this session to Jennifer Moses. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, Jennifer. Jennifer is going to lead us in a Q&A session on some important so we can get your views, which is really important. I don't know if you want to explain how people vote, Jennifer, or what. Do they put it in the chat, or I'm not quite sure on that, but I'll hand over to you now, Jennifer.
Yes, hi Angela. Hopefully you will have all received information on how to vote. This is a live polling session. So hopefully you will have received information in your joining instructions. If you're not sure how to vote, because we know there's not many of you here, can you put something in the chat, and then we'll make sure that information is put up in the chat. Also, this is, as I say, a live polling session, and this is the consultative element of our consultation conferences with young members. And so we really would welcome your involvement in this session as we go through the questions. So I've got 10 questions, fairly simple, and there'll be a number of options. So if you could just, you'll only be able to vote for one option, but I would like us to have a little bit of discussion after, if not all of them, but some of the questions, just to explore the issue a little bit further. So just to start, my name is Jennifer Moses, and I'm head of the Equalities and Training team at the NASUWT. So thank you for those who have taken your time out of your weekend to come and join and talk to your union about issues that affect you within the workplace. So as I say, we'll have a series of questions, and if we could just have the first question put up, please. Thank you. Okay, so this is the first question, and there are 4 options. So you're here on a Saturday afternoon. Now it is, sorry, I had to check then, it's been a long day already, and you've opted to attend this event. So can we just check with you, what is it that most attracted you to attend this year's Young Teachers Conference? It could be a combination of those 4, but what most attracted you? Was it one or more of the sessions, the opportunity to connect and network with connect with other young teachers, or with the national representatives of the union, or was there something else? Oh, right, okay. We'll give you about 10 seconds or so to vote, and then we'll go and you will be able to see the results live. Just a few more. Okay, can we go to the full results, please, just to check? Right, okay, so there you go. The majority of you, 80%, said that the subject matter, the topics, were the things that drove you to attend today. And then we had 20% of you who said that you wanted the opportunity to engage with some of the senior representatives of the union, which is good. So I'm glad that you were that the topics was something that attracted you. No one put something else, so that's absolutely fine. We'll move on to question 2 now, please. Okay, this is about your communications and how you communicate. Obviously, there are so many different platforms, but this question is checking if you are communicating with your union, the NASUWT, what would be your first choice, the go-to platform that you would use to connect with the NASUWT, regardless of the type? Would it be Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, WhatsApp broadcast, an NASUWT app, text message, and there is an option 9. I can't see it on the screen, but the option 9 is something else. Sorry, 10 is something else. So something else, you can select H. Okay, we go to the results, please. Now that's very interesting. Equally, Facebook or WhatsApp broadcast. Be interesting to know, because I don't know very much about WhatsApp broadcast. A colleague was trying to explain it to me yesterday, but I'm afraid I'm not sure. I use WhatsApp a lot. I don't know if anybody wants to put something in the chat box about WhatsApp, if it is actually WhatsApp broadcast would be your preferred choice, or WhatsApp in itself. And are you already using WhatsApp? I can't see anything in the chat. If there isn't anything, I will move on. That's just fine. But again, if there's any observations that you have about the questions or thought, you know, please use either the Q&A or the chat box to put it in, and I'll try my best to keep an eye on it. I think for the purposes of this actually, if you can use the chat box, then I don't need to check 2 boxes. So that's interesting then, 50% each, half of you on Facebook and half on WhatsApp broadcast. Thank you for that, because that's really useful information for our comms and our comm strategy to continue engaging with you. Okay, those are kind of the opening questions, if you like. So if we can go on to question 3, please. So we're all living with, and I have to say, living with this COVID-19 pandemic. At the beginning of the pandemic, we spent a lot of time putting information out to members around risk assessments and what employers need to do to keep you safe and what you need to do yourself to keep you safe. So we kind of asked this question at all of our specific equality consultation conferences. So this is specifically for young teachers. Do you think that your employer has done enough to address the risks from COVID-19? Again, this is a single choice. A is yes, B is no, and C is not sure. Okay, can we go to the results, please? I see people are voting early, which is fine. Okay. These results, okay, 83% is that? Yes, 83% of you have said yes, you feel that your employer has done enough. But there are so many of you said you're not sure. Again, if anyone's got any comments to make about why they're not sure, is it because you don't know what has been put in place to protect you in the workplace, i.e. it hasn't been communicated effectively to you? Or is it something that you're not too concerned about, perhaps? If anybody wants to put anything in the chat, particularly if you voted for not sure, that would be really helpful. Even if you want to come back to it at a time, you know, we can have that discussion. We can have that discussion about it at that time. So that's quite interesting then, actually, in terms of 83% of you. That isn't the picture, I have to say, at some of the other conferences that we have, particularly for our disabled members and for our Black members. The picture was very different. In fact, it was mainly no's. So interesting. Can we go to the next question, please? So the theme of this conference is discussing the changing world of work, and it has had to change. We've had to adapt as we're going through this pandemic. We talked a little bit about that with the panel session that we had. So this response to the pandemic has required wide-scale changes to our working practices for all of us, I have to say. For example, this conference, as in last year, is being held remotely. Hopefully next year it won't be. But so the question is, in your experience, are these changes largely positive, largely negative is B, C, you're not sure, or D, something else? I know you've already been voting. And I think these are the results. Yes. So again, interesting. Yeah, these are the results. Yes. 75% of you, the majority of you, said largely negative. I really would like to hear more about anyone who wants to talk about their experiences. Again, this is a confidential and safe space. You can't, you know, comments are anonymized. It's not going to go anywhere in terms of naming you in that sense, but we would like to get a picture of what is happening in your work, in your workplace. What is happening in terms of the changes to your working practices and your teaching. This information is crucial for us in terms of our bargaining and lobbying with governments and with employers. So please, you know, add any comments that, if you like, to the chat or in the Q&A box, whichever suits. So again, some of you said not sure. Again, interesting why you're not sure about that response. But if there are no other comments or questions on that point, wait a second. No? Okay. Can we move to question 5, please? Okay, question 5 is, we have heard concerns around teachers and their not being able to use their professional judgment and their voices. So do you feel that your professional judgment and voice as a teacher has been taken seriously in your workplace in terms of these changes? I.e., as you're going through these changes, have you been consulted as your head and consulted with you in terms of what works best for teaching, dependent on what sector you're teaching in, or have you felt that you haven't had a voice in the workplace in terms of those necessary changes? Can we have the results, please? Okay, it's a split into 3/3. So just over a third of you said yes. You do feel that your professional judgment has been listened, has been recognised, and that you've been listened to. Again, another third said no, and there's a third of you said you're not sure. Interesting split there. Unless we can get a discussion going, it's hard to see what those differences are and what those experiences are, as I said. Right, okay, I think there are some questions coming in. I'm just seeing them now. I'm just checking if this question from, who is it from Mohammed, where you said that you voted largely negative because you disagree with the idea of exam boards cancelling face-to-face exams and using teacher assessed grades. It's just the way of exam boards cutting costs, nothing to do with staying COVID safe. Yeah, good, absolutely good point, Mohammed. Thank you for that. Very interesting point around exams, and not just on the impact of children, pupils and their learning, but also on the impact of teachers. You know best, and that's one of the things that NASUWT argues for, that teachers' professional judgment should be used as a guide for working practices in schools. So thank you for that. I believe that there may be some other questions, but I can't see them. I don't know if they're in the Q&A box or in the chat box. Let me know if I'm missing any, please, if anyone. Right, okay. No, I can't see any more. Right, can we go to the next question, please? Okay, so the next question is question 6. What would you like the NASUWT to prioritise in terms of campaigns to specifically support the needs of young teachers? So these conferences, this engagement with you is really important for directing and prioritising our campaigns. So there are a number of options here, and I think some may have fallen at the bottom off the end, so I will go through them. So option A is, do you want us to campaign on the excessive workload? B, on pay and pay cuts. C, a better deal for supply teachers. D is access to professional development and training. E is the career prospects of young teachers. And F is a focus on the mental health and well-being of teachers. And G is something else. So if you could just make sure everybody's voted. Okay, can we have the results, please? Okay, thank you. So we have some of you, 17%, said better deal for supply teachers. So I hope that the session this morning that Paul Watkins round was useful to those of you who are supply. Then we've got 50%, half of you said career and career prospects of young teachers, which actually connects with information and work that we've been doing with our young members who are concerned about their career prospects. Or we've got a third of you said a focus on the mental health and well-being of teachers. And gee, I don't know, I can't see whether there was anyone who had clicked something else. So if you have, if there is something else, please put it in the chat box, even if we move on to another question. If there's anything else that you would like the NASWT to do in terms of supporting, better support for young members, young teachers in the classroom, can you please put that in the chat, because it will be taken up by the union on your behalf. So that was quite interesting, actually. Thank you for voting. Again, I'm still not seeing any questions. I don't know why, but I think I see something in the Q&A box. Just give me a second. Okay, so someone says that they feel like their school does a good job of listening, but pressures from Ofsted and government are high. We are teaching them the curriculum of the year group because we are teaching them the curriculum of the year group they are in, but socially and emotionally, they are 2 years behind. This makes it hard for them to learn when they are still developing relationships with each other. That's excellent point, actually, around catch up, which is a term that's often referred to in terms of children who have had to live through this pandemic as well as us. Developing those relationships sometimes with new children if they've gone to a new school, a new class, or a new bubble, whatever works in your school. And they need to get their heads around that, as well as trying to get their head around catching up, if you like, with their learning. So thank you for that person who's put that comment in the Q&A box. I'm going to ask Angela, if you don't mind, that because there may be questions that come into the chat box that I can't see. So if anybody can see them and I'm missing them, either through you, Angela, or if one of my colleagues could put their unmute and actually ask the question.
Yep,
or
I'll do that, Jennifer, dim probs.
That would be great. Thank you. So where are we now? Right, question 8, I think we're on now. Or is it question 7, let me think. Yes, this is around the disruption that's been caused by COVID and how and whether it has impacted on your career progression. There are 3 options here. So has COVID-19 restricted or prevented your career progression due to less opportunities, including mentoring from senior staff? Has it improved your career progression opportunities, or has it made no change at all? You can vote, please. Okay, can we have the results, please? If this is the results. Yes, thank you. Oh, that's very interesting. So 80% of you, the majority of you, said that the disruption caused by COVID had restricted or prevented your career progression. Thank you for that. And that's something that we'll focus on in terms of, it's not just about the catch up of the education provision of children and young people, but it's also around the career progression, the professional development that teachers need to also catch up on. And then I think 20% of you said no change at all. And not surprisingly, we had no one said that it had improved their career progression, but obviously we have to put that option in. Again, I've got a comment in the chat box. I agree with this point. I assume it's on the previous point, and said, as a TA, I worked with some year 7 students this year who still operate year 2 to year 4 primary school levels. Yeah, this is around the catch up and working, some pupils working 2 years behind. And then issues around gaps in primary schooling, SEN, mainly SEN year 7s, but some mainstream ones. Have I missed anything, Angela?
No, you haven't missed anything yet, Jennifer. That's fine.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. I mean, this gives us really good, as I say, policy areas to work on in terms of your career progression. Again, if there are any more specific points, please put them in the chat, because we are capturing the chat and we will use that for information on our work going forward. So can we go on to the next question, please? So this is a specific question because it's been brought to our attention, and it's a more urgent piece of work we are doing around online abuse. We have a lot increased casework and lots of reports of abuse of pupils, from pupils mainly, at teachers who are predominantly through TikTok platform, who are using it to abuse teachers, to put up malicious allegations about them, some issues where teachers are being named as paedophiles, or there is other sexual harassment, racist, homophobic comments being used on this online abuse. So we are reporting this. The General Secretary has reported it to all the education ministers right across the UK. And we're also working with industry to try to help schools to better quickly remove the pages that are up on these websites, such as on these sites, such as TikTok, and with organisations who work on online abuse to support schools in preventing this online abuse from happening in the first place. So we just wanted to get a picture about with what has been your experience. So we're asking, have you or your colleagues experienced online abuse or trolling associated with your role as a teacher? So we've got 17% of you, I think these are the results now, who said that they have. Yeah, 17% of you said yes, that you have some experience, whether it's yourself or someone you know. 83% have said you've not, which is I'm pleased about, actually, because it's an awful situation for the teachers that have been at the receiving end of these abusive work. So we are continuing with that. Thank you. Again, anybody wants to put any comments, or if you would like someone from the union to make direct contact with you about an issue that you're concerned about but don't want to go public, just put contact me, and then we will be able to do that, and you can do that, and we can keep that the information as well if needed. So thank you for that.
There is something in the Q&A box, Jennifer, about, but I think that was for a previous question.
Oh, right, okay, yes.
It says I voted no, but I work in primary. I'm sure it would be higher in secondary. So that was at the previous question, I think.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. Yeah, it's hard to try and keep up with because we did originally say use the Q&A box, so I don't mind whichever method you want to use. That's absolutely fine. So I think I've just got one more question now, so if we can go to the last question, please. Okay, going forwards, well, you've heard a lot today about some of the situations around the changing world of work. We've talked about what being involved in the union as an activist, if using that word, would benefit you as a young teacher. So what more would you like the NSWT to do for young teachers? And this will help to shape future conferences and events such as this. So there are 6 options. A, more opportunities to meet and network with other young members. B, specific advice and support on rights at work. C, professional development courses. We do some professional development courses that the union runs, which is free if you are a member, and all the information is on the website, I have to say. Trade union education and training courses for young members. You are our future. And we know that we are desperate to get more young members active within the union, but we do understand, you know, many of you, if not all, is just at the early start of your career, so there may be concerns about how you do both roles. Just be assured you would not be on your own. You would get support from the NASUWT, and it doesn't mean that you would have to be the rep, if you like, or you would have, we'd like you to be, but it doesn't necessarily mean you'd have to take on a fully active role. But I can talk a little bit more about that. Advice and support to progress into leadership is option E, or is there something else? And if you could just vote now, and then that will be fine. Thank you. Okay. So these are results. Yes. Thank you. So let's have a look. So 14% said more opportunities to meet and network with other members. Then we've got joint, a third of you, just under a third of you said specific advice and support on rights at work. And then another third said trade union education and training courses for young members. So that's brilliant, actually, because particularly the trade union, the training courses for young members, we are looking at updating our course for young members. So it's good to see that this is something that you would like the union to pursue. And then we've got 14% said professional development courses, and another 14% said advice and support to progress into leadership. So that gives us a really good picture on the priorities that you'd like the union to focus on going forwards for young members. So thank you for your indulgence in that. It does give us a program of work to take forward after today. And we'd want to take you with us, actually. So if you think, actually, I'd like to know more about what getting involved with the NSWT means, please contact, if someone could just put an email address for the Equality and Training inbox into the chat, just email us and we can give you some information about what being involved means, what levels you can do, what support you will get, what training you can get, and how we can help you if you feel that there may be some conflict with your teaching practice. So if someone can just put in the chat box the Equality and Training email address, there it is. Thank you very much. Just use that email address and contact us, and someone will get back to you and answer any questions around how to get involved within the NSWT, or indeed about some of the other points that you've made here about issues facing young teachers. And with that, Angela, I think that comes to the end of the polling question. So if you can stop sharing, please, that would be great. And thank you all for your indulgence. And this is a really important aspect of the programme, as I said today. And so those points and your comments and your responses will shape and frame the work we're doing on support for young teachers going forward. So thanks very much for that.
And thank you for leading us in that, Jennifer. And I can reiterate that we do, as a national officer team, have a look at all of the things that have gone on in the equalities conferences, in particularly this session in our conferences is the one that we focus on, because this is where you give your voice, and this is how we then take forward the work of the union. And at the end of today, I will actually put my email address in the chat as well, so that you can contact. There's lots of different ways you can contact NASUWT, but also you can contact me personally if you want to. So we're going to move into a break now, and when we come back, we've got 3 sessions that are pretty rip rap, right? So we're going to take, we'll have a break now, but then when we come back, there will be 3 back-to-back sessions. So the next bit will be 90 minutes, hour and a half in old money. All right, so it will be, so we'll finish now, nice break, back everybody for 2:30, and then we'll just push on through to the end of the afternoon. All right, so thank you very much again, Jennifer. Thank you for everyone who voted and contributing there, and I'll see you at 2:30. Joio.